Walker was one of the Walker brothers, who were a 60s band from LA who moved to Britain. So Walker isn't actually his real surname, and he wasn't actually a brother of the other people in the Walker brothers. Scott had a solo career that started in the late 60s and was still going until his death in 2019. And over that time, he had 19 solo albums. And over the years, he started out as a kind of popular orchestra-backed singer and just became avant-garde and experimental as time went on. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was Scott Walker's 11th studio album. It's apparently his only one of the 1980s, and it's my first hearing of this, but I have heard a few of the other Scott Walker albums because I've been reviewing them. So my understanding of Scott Walker in a very, very broad sense is that he started as being one of the Walker brothers, and he started basically as being a pop performer, particularly kind of this orchestral back pop. And then later he went much more experimental. And I think that this must be the start of that move into somewhat more unusual stuff, because it is fairly unusual in some ways. And in fact, to the extent that I think it defies categorization. I'm not sure if there's anything quite like this elsewhere. So the sounds that are used, there's quite a bit of 80s feel in some ways. With the drums, there's a fretless bass, which reminds me very much of Paul Young's stuff. I don't know if it was somewhere around the same sort of time. And there was a kind of there was a brief interest in fretless bass around that time to give a kind of jazz feel to things. It's kind of grand, but it's got quite a lot of space to it. There's an orchestra going on in the background. There's brass. There's occasional guitar at times. There's all sorts of little different things going on. It's definitely musically bizarre at times, particularly I'd kind of say the chord sequences and the key shifts are kind of unusual, and they're not what you'd expect from a straightforward pop song. And the structures here are very much not verse, chorus kind of structures. It feels, there probably is more structure than I've picked up, but it feels quite free form here. Scott Walker has got a very strong voice. He's particularly known for it. I would say on this album he reminded me strongly of Brian Ferry, who was the guy in Roxy Music. The kind of just the way his intonation goes. The lyrics are mostly quite bizarre. I didn't really understand a lot of what was going on. Some of it's quite dark. Some of it is obviously kind of picture stuff. I felt like maybe I needed some kind of special decoder to be able to understand actually what he's going on about. But I suspect what he's really doing is he's painting pictures of and quite strange and dark pictures. The exception to this is the last track, which is a track called Blanket Roll Blues, which is not actually written by Scott Walker. It's got words by Tennessee Williams. The music was written by a guy called Kenyon Hopkins, and it was recorded for a Marlon Brando film in the 50s. And this features guitar by Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. Other guests on the album include, or other people whose names I know, Billy Ocean, who's a soul singer, featured some backing singing, and most of the drums, I'm not quite sure if it's all done by a guy called Peter Van Hook, who I've come across, who played for, I believe, Mike and the Mechanics and some other bands as well. Hugely prolific player, did lots and lots of work with lots and lots of people. Track 7, so some of the tracks don't actually have names, they just have numbers. Track 7 is one of those, has some really great guitar in it as well. I felt like I wanted to go, in fact I did, I went to go check the credits to see who it was. I was wondering if it was Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd, but it wasn't. It's a guy called Ray Russell. So overall, I would say, actually, I really enjoyed it. It's kind of weird, but it's weird in a way that I responded well to. I liked it. So this is going to get a pretty good score from me. So that's what I think. Please tell me what you think, and you can do that by using your fingers or whatever other technique you've got of getting some words into the comments box. That's it from me for now.
When I cross the river with a heavy blanket roll, I